On the news tonight, court sentences killer of Umoren, Akwa Ibom job seeker, to death. Ikere to remain in custody as UK court adjourns hearing till October 31st. And 2023 elections will hold despite security challenges, federal government tells Nigerians. Many thanks for joining us in News Now. I am Folashade Ogurinde. The State High Court in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State has sentenced Uduak Akpan to death for raping and murdering a female job seeker, Ubang Umoren, in the state last year. The presiding judge, Basi Ikanang, in his judgment on Thursday, ruled the convict to be put to death by hanging. In his ruling, the judge said the prosecution has proven beyond doubt the case of rape and murder against Akpan. He, however, discharged and acquitted the father and sister of Akpan, who were the second and third defendants in the case. The trial of embattled former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has been adjourned to October 31st, and the senator returned to custody. Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice were arrested by London Metropolitan Police in June and appeared before a magistrate court in July over alleged organ harvesting. Both the lawmaker and his wife, Beatrice, were initially denied bail and remanded in custody, while the case was adjourned to July 7 and later August 4, 2022. However, Beatrice was granted bail on the strict conditions following an application filed by the defendant's counsel. A similar bail application for Ekweremadu was denied by the court. President Muhammadu Buhari has said the rapid integration of solar power into the country's energy mix will lead to an increase in electricity access to underserved and unserved communities. The president made the remark when he received a delegation of US-based energy and infrastructure developer Sun Africa at the presidential villa in Abuja. President Buhari commended the interest of the US developer to invest in Nigeria's power sector, pledging that the federal government would remain committed to collaborating with the private sector in improving energy access, creating jobs, and industrial development.
Some of the reforms embarked upon by this administration include the recent signing of the Nigeria Climate Change Bill in November 2021, the implementation of the Power Sector Recovery Program with the World Bank, the Nigerian Electrification Program aimed at enhancing energy access to remote communities, and the Presidential Power Initiative with Siemens, aimed at achieving end-to-end alignment across the electricity value chain. Initiatives like these will go a long way in developing local capacity through technology transfer and relieving transmission constraints through the generation and the distribution of electricity in the local distribution companies' franchise area, making off-take easier. The Ministries of Finance and Power, who are here as well as other agencies of government, will remain available at all times to ensure the achievement of this significant project as part of our efforts towards achieving net zero emission by 2030 or by 2050. I am pleased to note the technology transfer content embedded in this initiative, as well as the employment generation potentials. I thank you all for coming and look forward to receiving regular updates as you achieve significant milestones in developing your projects in Nigeria. Thank you very much.
The Nigerian Railway Corporation, NRC, has dismissed reports in the section of the media that operations have been grounded on the Warri-Itakpe and Lagos to Ibadan corridor. The corporation says the Warri-Itakpe train service is fully operational as scheduled, adding, however, that there is a temporary suspension of the passenger train stoppage at Ajaokuta station due to communal clashes pending restoration of peace in the area. Earlier today, our correspondent Mary Kanu was at the train station at Alagomeji in Lagos and tells us more.
Welcome Contrary to speculations that train operations in Nigeria have been suspended, it can now be confirmed that operations are ongoing but limited to certain routes, like the Lagos to Kano route was suspended due to insecurity, but the Lagos to Ibadan and Abeokuta route is currently operational, although staff of the NRC at the Mobolaji Johnson train station at Lagomeji, Lagos say patronage is currently very low due to the speculations so far. Mary Kanu, TV360, Nigeria.
The federal government has assured Nigerians that it is working effortlessly to ensure that the current security challenge in the country does not affect the 2023 general elections. This as citizens have raised concerns on the effects of security on the forthcoming elections. Addressing State House correspondents after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, disclosed that security agencies have been well equipped to end the menace. Our correspondent, Mr. Ladigun, has the details in this report.
This meeting, presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, is the first Federal Executive Council meeting for the month of August. The meeting, which had ministers and service chiefs in attendance, focused mainly on the current security challenges in the country. Due to worsening insecurity in the country, there have been continued calls for the removal of the service chiefs. Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, explained that the country's service chiefs are currently trying their best, but the decision to remove them solely lies with the president.
As for the issue of whether the service chiefs should resign or not, I think only the appointer can make such a decision. But I want to tell you that service chiefs are doing their best in circumstances, and they'll continue to do their best.
On her part, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning explained that the approval of 1.4 billion naira for the purchase of vehicles to tackle insecurity in Niger Republic is in the best interest of the country. She also confirmed the approval of a memo on the National Monetary and Evaluation Policy.
The Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning presented a policy memo to Council, and the memo is on the National Monetary and Evaluation Policy for the country. The policy defines a framework for the institutionalization of the practice of M&E to promote good governance, learning and accountability for results that will contribute to improve socio-economic development of the country and enhance the well-being of citizens.
The Federal Executive Council also approved $2.59 billion for the development of the Badagry Seaport under a private-public partnership arrangement. The Minister of Transportation, who disclosed this, also spoke on the suspension of railway services along the Lagos-Abeokuta-Abuja routes.
I would like to state clearly that it is better to suspend a service where there is imminent threat and clear that threat first, or where an incident had occurred, to investigate that incident rather than jeopardize the life of a single Nigerian. But Nigerians should rest assured that it is better to suspend a service than subject Nigerians to any threat to their lives.
Due to the security crisis and threat of invasion in the FCT, the Minister of the FCT, Mohammed Bello, revealed that the Federal Executive Council, FEC, had approved the sum of 2.6 billion naira for the procurement of utility vehicles and gadgets for security agencies operating in the Federal Capital Territory. Semisola Jigun, TV360.
And now to political matters. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, has named Senator Dile Malaye and Daniel Bwala as spokespersons for the upcoming presidential campaign. The appointment was contained in a short statement by Atiku's media advisor, Paul Ibe, who said the appointment is with immediate effect. While Malaye is a politician and a member of the 8th Senate, who represented Kogi West Senatorial District, Bwala, on the other hand, is a legal practitioner, politician, and public affairs analyst from Adamawa State. The national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, Abdullahi Adamu, has asked party members to close ranks and work as a team to ensure the party's victory in the 2023 elections. Adamu made the call while speaking with journalists after inaugurating an 8-member Abia Reconciliation Committee. Adamu said the party would not be satisfied with just 25% of votes cast in the general elections. The Minister of Agriculture, Mohammed Abubakar, said in spite of the protracted security challenge in the country, food production has not dropped. He made this known during the weekly ministerial briefing at the State House in Abuja, while acknowledging that the insurgency has inhibited farmers from accessing their farms, particularly in the northwest, northeast, and north-central zones of the country. The minister maintained that food production continues at an appreciable level for most parts of the country.
About farmers not being able to access their farms, northeast, northwest, and north central, yes, it's a concern for us, for the government. However, if you notice, production still has not dropped to any significant level that will say it has dropped. And it's one of the reasons why also we have this arrangement for the agro rangers to provide some measure of security to be able to access the farms. Truly, yes, if you cannot completely access farms all over, yes, you'll expect a drop in the production. So, but right now, we are doing everything possible to make sure it maintains through that security provision and other, things that we may not necessarily mention, but you can see food is still being produced for the most part.
We'll take a break here, but still to come, United Nations chief slams big oil firms over immoral profits, say people are suffering from high prices. Details of this story and more right after this break.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places, the Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Now here is a recap of some of our top stories tonight. The State High Court in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State Capital, sentenced Uduak Akpan to death for raping and murdering a female job seeker, Ubong Umoren, in the state last year. The presiding judge, Basi Ikenang, in his judgment on Thursday, ruled the convict to be put to death by hanging. In his ruling, the judge said the prosecution has proven beyond doubt the case of rape and murder against Akpan. The trial of embattled former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu has been adjourned to October the 31st, and the senator returned to custody. Ekweremadu and his wife Beatrice were arrested by London Metropolitan Police in June and appeared before a magistrate court in July over alleged organ harvesting. Well, in case you missed any of our news bulletins, so for more updates, do log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Google Plus at TV360 Nigeria. On Facebook, we are TV360 Online. Hong Kong has reported over 5,000 new COVID-19 infections and 3 new deaths on Thursday as daily infections continue to rise. The head of the country's Centre for Health Protection warned that its infections were expected to keep rising, adding that the government will closely monitor the situation but refrain from tightening social distancing rules for now. Meanwhile, increasing vaccination coverage remains the government's major strategy for avoiding a repeat of the explosion of cases, with the Chinese-made Sinovac now offered to children as young as 6 months. Australia's Federal Health Minister Mark Butler says data indicates that the peak of the latest COVID-19 wave has passed, but warned it is still too early to tell. During a press conference in Canberra on Thursday, Butler explained that he's hoping the virus will put less strain on hospital systems across the country. He maintained that the health sector will be monitoring the situation very closely over the course of the coming days. We'll take a breather now and return with more stories. To stay with us.
Hello? Yeah, I found your wallet in front of a supermarket. Meet me at Apple Junction. Yes, I'll be waiting for you.
Now we find out. 2 of us.
Thank you very much, officer. You know, it's surprising that men like you still exist in the police force.
Yes, so...
Oh, yes.
This is just a token of my appreciation.
Oh, no, you don't need to do this. We're only doing our job.
Thank you very much. God bless you.
You're welcome.
Now I know police is really my friend.
Yes.
Friend. Hey. Which came up with this one? I don't understand.
You know your problem. You are greedy. I'm a policeman who is doing his job. All forms of corruption in the force. Not in my country.
Corruption not in my country.
Welcome back. Simi Saladigun joins us now for more stories and business. Over to you, Simi.
Thank you, Folashade. Welcome to business. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies, OPEC Plus, said on Wednesday that it will produce an additional 100,000 barrels a day in September. The decision is coming despite President Joe Biden's trip to Saudi Arabia last month to persuade OPEC's leader to pump more to help rein in prices boosted by rebounding demand and Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. But what does an increased output of 1.830 million barrels per day mean for Nigeria, having suffered setbacks in the crude oil production? Our correspondent Folashade Ogunrinde tells us more in this report.
Industry watchers in the oil and gas sector monitored with keen interest on Wednesday to see if OPEC and its allies will increase oil output. This comes after U.S. President Joe Biden's visit to Saudi Arabia to ask the group's leader to pump more to help rein in prices boosted by rebounding demand and Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. While the decision to produce an additional 100,000 barrels per day in September is one of the smallest since OPEC quota was introduced in 1982, the ability of Nigeria to meet up with its production target of 1.830 million barrels per day in September worries industry experts.
As I speak to you right now, we don't have up to 15 active drilling rigs, and I said, quote me, but there used to be a time in this same great Nigeria where only one operating company can have up to 10 active drilling rigs. And in those good old days, you can have active drilling rigs in Nigeria nearing 50. And in those days, Nigeria was literally begging OPEC to allocate more quotas for her so that she could boost production, sell, and generate good money. Because as all of us know, crude oil and gas are international commodities. And when we talk about international commodities, then they are traded in international currency, which we can technically call the dollar.
The reasons for the shortfall in oil production are not far-fetched, as pipeline vandalism, oil theft, and divestment of international oil companies have taken a toll over time.
Crude oil theft is dangerous. I mean, you're talking about economic marauders here. You're talking about economic vampires. You're talking about people who are suffering from moral insolvency and moral bankruptcy. Because what they do is they go break into the pipelines. And when you break into the pipelines, whether you find gas there or water or crude oil, you are tampering with somebody's investment. And some of these investors, as we talk, whether they are local investors or international investors, I mean, they got the capital or the funds from somewhere. And sometimes they get the funds from either shareholders or creditors.
For industry experts, the future of Nigeria's oil and gas sector depends heavily on the nation's ability to take advantage of opportunities as Europe looks to Africa for energy. Folashade Ogurinde, TV360 News.
We'll take a short break and be back with a review of the stock market. Nigeria's equities continued its bearish trend on Thursday with a decline of 0.03% as investors continue to sell down despite the half-year earnings season. The record loss is driven majorly by Boa Cement, leading to a decrease in the all-share index and market capitalization to 50,582 basis points and 27 trillion naira respectively. Multiverse Mining and Explorations and Lasako Assurance are the bottom losers with 2 naira 63 kobo. Now PZ Cousins Nigeria and Honeywell Flour Mills are the top advancers with 12 naira. In 3,993 deals, investors exchanged 130 million volumes of shares valued at 1.62 billion naira. Moving on, global stocks were mixed on Thursday as investors continued to review the latest updates on the economy and corporate earnings. So you see right here, our FTSE and Nikkei are in the greens at 0.032% and 0.69%. That leaves the US Dow Jones in the reds at 0.25%. That's it on stock. It's back to you, Folashade.
Well, many thanks to me for that update. And now on the foreign scene, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has strongly criticized the world's biggest oil and gas companies for making excessive record profits from the current energy crisis caused by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, while people around the world suffer from increased prices. Guterres spoke at the launch of the third brief by the Global Crisis Response Group on food, energy and financial on Wednesday. He has urged government to tax these excessive profits and use the funds to raise support for the people, for the vulnerable people.
Through a threefold crisis of access to food, energy and finance. Household budgets everywhere are feeling the pinch from high food, transport and energy prices, fueled by climate breakdown and war. This threatens a starvation crisis for the poorest households and severe cutbacks for those on average incomes. And many developing countries are drowning in debt without access to finance and struggling to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and could go over the brink. It is immoral for oil and gas companies to be making record profits from this energy crisis on the back of the poorest people and communities and at a massive cost to the climate. The combined profits of the largest energy companies in the first quarter of this year are close to $100 billion. I urge all governments to tax these excessive profits and use the funds to support the most vulnerable people through these difficult times. And I urge people everywhere to send a clear message to the fossil fuel industry and their financiers that this grotesque greed is punishing the poorest and most vulnerable people while destroying our only common home, the planet.
Well, up next is Entertainment Report on News Now.
The Actors Guild of Nigeria has announced the release of its members Cynthia Okereke and Clemson Cornell. According to a statement by the association on its official Instagram page on Wednesday, the movie stars were released unhurt. Cynthia and Clemson were abducted last week in Enugu State, after which the kidnappers demanded a ransom of $100,000. Film One Entertainment has wrapped up shoot and is now in the post-production stage of its debut original feature film, Adire. Set in modern times Nigeria, Adire is a drama that captures the escapades of a retired prostitute turned fashion entrepreneur who suffers the consequences of her adventurous past and the present, messed up by the toxicity of a judgmental clergyman's wife. The movie stars Kehinde Bankole and Funlola Aofiebi Raimi in lead roles, including Yvonne Jegede, Yemi Black, Femi Branch, Idowu Iyarimbo Phillips, Ibrahim Chatta, amongst many others. And that's all on the entertainment segment of News Now.
Well, away from entertainment and out of sports, Nigeria will face 2016 European champions Portugal in an international friendly scheduled to hold in September. This was revealed by Nigeria Football Federation Secretary General Mohamed Sanusi. The three-time African champions were initially scheduled to play Guinea-Bissau in a double-header Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers in the FIFA international break. And that's the size of our news bulletin. Many thanks for watching. I am Folashade Ogorinde. Bye for now.